Hello and welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenor and today I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. This is a horoscope for Cancer. If Cancer is your solar, lunar, ascendant / rising sign, then this is a message for you. All right, let's get started. Okay, what do these tea leaves have to say today? Well, they are very much kind of all grouped up into one side. This is not a super balanced bowl we have here. It looks like a lot of heavy energy on one side. Okay, let me just fix these. I pushed them all over the place. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna pull it back. Okay, so just from down here, I want to point out this heart. Okay, and this is it's kind of very squished. And it's interesting because there are kind of these, now technically asymmetrical, but if we just kind of don't pay attention to most of the stuff here, we have the heart and then we have these two, and I feel that it's just, wow, this desire to really kind of get things more symmetrical, balance things out, but the weight of that has been difficult. So I think this has been a bit of a challenge lately, getting kind of your maybe love affairs in order, but it doesn't have to be necessarily a person or a being of any kind, really. Just, it could be something that you love, okay? Something that, one of your passions, one of the things that you spend a lot of your time doing or thinking about. Because this is in that material zone in the bottom of the bowl, I'm thinking that this is something that you do in your daily life, or it's, at least in your physical, corporeal body, right? So it's not just based in the mental, not in the spiritual, metaphysical zones, okay? This is a physical, something that takes place in the physical world. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. I mean, you could be, reading or whatever. But I think definitely it feels like I just get this instinct that it just kind of almost like a feeling of your passion for whatever you have been interested in is becoming a bit deflated. Okay. And it's kind of interesting because that same formation, when I kind of turn it back and forth, and to me, it looks like an animal. It almost reminds me of like a little squirrel or something, and this is going to be a little sad. I'm sorry, but I get the feeling that recently there has been some kind of passing over of an animal in your life. Now, is this somebody, I always call my cats somebodies. I'm like, you don't do that to somebody. I say that to my daughter all the time. I'm like, you don't do that to somebody when she's rough with the cats or, wants to like lay on them and hug them and stuff. So, okay, let me back up just a little bit. It sounds to me like, looking at this bowl and in my internal dialogue here, that an animal has passed. You have been in contact with a deceased animal recently. And I think that this could be like a family member, an animal, non-human family member. Or this is maybe a visitor in your yard who you've found deceased. Or possibly like an animal that you have like a, a love for, that you've come upon, that is deceased. So, something like in the road, or, a bird that has perished, or, whatever. If this is more of a family member, that, that's very difficult. And I hope that's, that's not the case. I know I've been a cat person for most of my life. So I've had some cats for years and years and years. My last baby I had since he was a little tiny kitten, and he passed away when he was 17. So it was, I know, it's really heartbreaking, and it's a huge loss. So I empathize if that's the case. Now, if this is somebody that you have experienced, around your home, sometimes, we have our little friends outside, and we have a backyard a whole town that we live in full of squirrels and possum and raccoons and, just all kinds of manner of animal. And although, I don't hold them or pet them, I see, there are some of them that I see almost every single day. And so, when you come upon them and they have crossed over, that can be a little jolting. And I feel that there's an energy of that kind of, there's a, in your life right now. And I think it's it's been hard, I think. I think it's it has changed the way that you have been thinking, the tone of just your self-talk. I think you've become a little bit more introspective in the hours and maybe days after this experience. And I think I think because it's so tied into this kind of squished heart here, I think that what has happened here is that your encounter with death, and this is a smaller encounter, for whatever, if you've lost a family member, animal, that's a lot more devastating, obviously. But when you encounter death more in the wild, shall we say, I think because, especially if it's another species, there's a little bit of a disconnect, but it can definitely lead to some deeper contemplation, right? I think that, I'm very much of the school of thought that we do live, side by side with this consciousness of our impending death. Every moment of our life, most of the things that we do in life are toned with this knowledge that we will someday die, okay? And that's out of our control, so far anyways. But, when these moments happen and we're forced to kind of, be face to face with mortality, but in a smaller way, right? I think that this can be really a catalyst for wanting to either, considering it moving on, but also I think sometimes it's like you really think, what am I doing that, you know, is really making my life of worth? What is happening in my life that I want and need? You know, am I living in such a way that is worthwhile in my estimation? You know, and that's personal to each of us. But I think that when we do commune with death in these moments, it's a good reminder that, you know, we should look for the sweetness in life, right? That we should take the time to do the things that make us happy, do the things that make us content, do the things that make us feel well and grow. And sometimes those things are also difficult, and they're not always, you know, follow your bliss by any means. But I think that this is a moment of a reminder for you, okay? And I think it really, because I pulled the Two of Cups here, and this is from the Thoth deck, and this is the card of love. And this is a very, you know, Cancer and Venus, and the embrace and the flowingness of life, and, you know, the sweet nectars, and, you know, all of those beautiful things that kind of lubricate our existence and pass through us and pass into all things. And it's very beautiful card. I was so happy to see that one. But I think sometimes, you know, when we experience something in this kind of, you know, dual nature, or there's a real stark contrast, you know, death and love and life, and, you know, these things, I think that it's a gift. It's such a gift because, well, it's terrible also. Let me just say, it's awful to deal with death on any level. I will say, some years ago, I went through, you know how they always say, you know, it comes in threes, and I had 3 very important people die in a short amount of time. And then a few months later, one of my cats passed away. He was 21 years old. Shout out to Charlie Tuna. But when he died, I lost it. That was the thing that sent me over the edge, I think. And so I understand, like, these animal deaths, these beloved things that we, you know, live parallel lives to. It can be very destabilizing, very difficult. But in a grander scheme of things, I think that it is sometimes, and I keep bumping this, I'm so sorry. I think it is such a gift to be able to experience death in a smaller, controlled way. Okay? I think that, you know, too often our lives are sterilized of the process of death. We're very detached from, you know, the reality of the many seasons of life, okay? And we live in a society and a culture that really fears these passages. And, you know, it doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't. So these are, you know, in my opinion, not directly, but a little more philosophically, they are little blessings. So take time to contemplate whatever is arising in this little situation, this hurt, this pain, those pangs of sadness. They're, you know, kind of washing away and opening some windows in yourself, so that you may contemplate. Okay, let's move along here. Now, I get this feeling that, and I want to look at this one. I want to look at it this way. How was I seeing that? Yeah. Okay. So we have a person kind of running. Here's the body. Arms are even kind of back, the head, the hair's flowing. We have this, the leg, and it's very much, you know, you can even see kind of the road here or the path. And I think it's just full force ahead. And I think that going through this situation down here is really propelling you to move forward. And I think that whatever little things that you had been kind of toiling over recently have kind of been pushed to the side, or if not completely obliterated from your mind or psyche, because you've experienced this tiny little flavor of loss, right? It's a moment of loss, okay? And you know, the equalizers, as we say, the great equalizers in life are the love, right? But it's also the death. Okay, and the love that's intertwined with the death. But so now I think that you're back to full force ahead. Okay, this is really kind of lit a fire under you. And I believe, I get this impression that this is not necessarily about finding love, okay? Like romantic love, family love, platonic friends, whatever. I think that this is really for you about finding a new interest, about finding something to spend your moments in between things, all of those extra hours that you might have, that you might find. Something to really just be, you know, taken by hyper fixations and interests and, you know, minor obsessions. And my husband is a solar Cancer, and he, and I've known quite a few Cancers. Cancers happen to be my favorite people, I think. But besides my daughter, who is a Gemini, of course. But Cancers tend to be people, in my estimation, especially solar Cancers, people that find things that they really love and they get so immersed in them. They, you know, and this is what fuels them in life, keeps them going, is, you know, when you see a Cancer that doesn't have you know, an interest that is ablaze, they're just not you know, as happy as they could be. You know, as I said, my husband is very much like this. He's always wanting to learn something new, and he has a new thing he's studying or a new skill. And that's one of my favorite things about him, to be honest. I think it's so attractive, but it's also just like, it gives me more focus in my own life to find things that are important to me. And I feel like I've spent a lot more time learning within this relationship than before. So I think that's a wonderful quality. And I think that really this is a time for you to find something that's just really going to get your intellectual, spiritual, you know, juices flowing. Being creative, problem solving, you know, building, whatever it is that you like to do. I think this is a great time to get involved. Really, really immerse yourself in that, okay? And then I wanted to look at this beautiful symbol. It looks like a beautiful elk. I love that the big chest out, and we have the antlers here. And these beautiful stars above. It looks like there's some constellations. We have a beautiful little scene of some kind of being in this beautiful devotional pose. But first I want to look at this this elk character. And, oh shoot, I'm just poking everything. And so what is the elk? We know that the elk is a very divine and holy creature, especially in North America, among, tribal religion, folk religion, and mythology. But it's not too much unlike the stag or like a moose. Okay, so this is a creature that for whatever reason, less social, and I don't know if this is true or not, but in my studies of symbology of elk, or just looking at elk, and really my studies usually are within like looking at field guides and looking at pictures and looking at artwork depicting these animals. So this could be, a little bit skewed. But I see the elk, especially the male elk, as a little more solitary than, say, a deer, okay? Symbolism wise. So this is like a little bit more standoffish of a creature, but it's still very much that kind of leader role, a little more, what's the word? I think defensive. Okay, this is a posture, an animal in a posture of being a bit more defensive, standoffish, protective, definitely, but not so much. I don't see this as like, say we're talking about like a ram or a goat. I would say, okay, so they're, protective of their flock, their little tribe, their family. I see the elk as being more defensive for self, okay, protective of self. And so I feel like it's easy for you to get into these places where you just want to shut off the world, push everybody away, especially if you're having these kinds of moments of deep contemplation, especially if it's things that maybe feel a little more solemn, solemn, as I'm sorry to laugh. I'm terrible with words and pronouncing them, so you'll probably notice that if you watch my videos. I kind of have my own little language, and that's mostly because I've taught myself a lot of words just through reading. I don't always hear them being spoken by other people. But yeah, so I think that when you're going through a period of thinking about things like mortality and meaning and, existential type, topics, you go into yourself deeper than you usually do. I mean, I think it's in your nature probably to be a little bit more inverted, or, one foot in the interior world, one foot in the, in the material world most of the time. Well, when you're in these places, I think that, it's just the relief of any kind of, emotional laboring that you're doing, I think is going to be found through those interests, those, hobbies, those studies, researching things, building things, whatever it is. I think that, just be aware that you should try to keep yourself a little tempered, because you might be a little temperamental. And I think that just, be measured in your responses. And, this is a big thing for Cancers, I will say. Just communicate what you're feeling. Let people know that you just don't want to talk. You need some time to yourself. You want to do your own thing. And that, that's okay. That sometimes that is just what it is. And, I think, anybody that knows you well will know that this is how you sort through things, and this is how you like to live sometimes, and, that's fine. So, let's see what else. This is an interesting one, too. I'm trying to figure out, so I see this kind of little fox. You can see the face. It's kind of turned back. Here's the body and the tail. And I'm trying to see kind of, it almost looks like something's landing on it, like it's attacking it, but I don't think that's what it is. To me, it looks like is the moon and almost these kind of petals of like the lunar light coming down. Okay. And so I imagine this beautiful scene of a fox out in the yard late at night. And I'm thinking this is summer. I don't want to think about the snow. We're about to get so much snow here. I just saw it's like 18 inches or something. I thought the winter was almost over. But anyways, I'm picturing the late night, like in, a vast yard or grove or meadow, something. There's trees around, but there's some breaks in between, and the moon is huge. Oh, and the green grass and the lushness, and it's just so swollen with life, but it's the night side, so it's like mysterious and there's a lot of depth. And we have our little fox kind of trotting through that area, that little meadow in the clearing, turning back and looking up at the moon, and it's just almost like a beautiful fractal petals unfurling. And I just think that it's a moment of just like being touched by that like goddess, that knowledge, wisdom that the goddess sends down to us. It's frightening. Sometimes we want to recoil, but it's like, I don't know, the thing that I can relate it to is this, it's just instinct. When instinct sets in, but it's not an instinct of like fight or flight, not like something terrifying, but it's like, I remember when I was just about to give birth, and I gave birth the old-fashioned way, and in the hospital though, and for the days before I was going to go in and give birth, I was having contractions and it was getting close, and I'm, first time mom, and it's all a mystery to me. I watched videos and whatever, but I felt very, there was like a big disconnect for me between, being pregnant and this huge rite of passage I was about to go through. Not only I, but my child was about to pass through the portal, and, her consciousness be brought into, the material away from my own body, right? And so, I was terrified, and I would sit up at night on the edge of the bed by myself and sometimes cry. I mean, I almost feel like crying right now thinking about it, because I was so scared. But in these moments, and there was a real specific moment where it was like I was being held by like the collective energies of every mother, every mother everywhere. And gosh, I'm getting teary-eyed. Excuse me. But there was like, I knew what to do. And I had this epiphany of you're just gonna know. You're just gonna know. Your body's gonna know. Your mind's gonna know. And you just trust. You trust in yourself, and you trust in that, that collective knowledge that we have, that collective wisdom that flows through our DNA, right? And so when I look at this, I see this night creature, this kind of skittish thing, this beautiful, elusive beauty that if you see a fox, they've decided to let you see them, right? And that's a blessing. So I see this beautiful, beautiful, elusive thing at night, and just having a moment of, maybe a little bit of a fright, but looking up and the moon is there and she's smiling and reaching out, unfurling and blessing you. Blessing you on your head. You are not alone in anything. You're never alone, right? And I think that's so much what this beautiful formation is. And I feel like, it's all about trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, trusting that you already know what you need to know. It's just about listening and, following your intuition. And if there's something that you are unclear about, then you seek those answers, okay? But don't let anybody tell you. Don't even let me tell you. I'm just, I'm just passing on some vague knowledge here, some vague thoughts. I also think you have this one looks like a beautiful little flower. Here's the stem. Looks kind of like a tulip, and it's growing up into the spiritual, metaphysical zone. And I think, this is all goes together. This blooming happening, this very, and here we go right here. This very, very clear moment of clarity, that all things are connected. Everything comes and goes, and the pieces scatter and go into other things, and those things come and go and scatter and they go into other things, and it's just a never-ending cycle, okay? And there's some infinite love in that knowledge, right? Okay, so you are held, you are loved, you are, you are so capable, Cancer. And let's see. I just have got so emotional. I got to get it together. I have so many other things going today. All right, let's see. Ooh-wee. Well, I do see a little bit of heartbreak. And I see, there's an amount of tea here that is flowing through some of this stuff and moving. It was moving it about when I picked it up. So I do think that there's some underlying, maybe romantic, or within your relationship, there's been a little bit of, miscommunication or little things, nothing huge. Maybe you just went on a couple of dates with somebody and it didn't work out, whatever it is. There's a little bit of, I think, emotional stress, not terribly, okay, but I think that, this is kind of compounding some of these other feelings. But I see that once you get things kind of in line with, like we had talked about, you finding your next big love affair with whatever interest you have, I think that it's going to be relieved pretty quickly. And I see this pretty little bird down here. Let me see if I can get that. Yeah, there we go. A little songbird, kind of looking towards and the water just moved it, but it was looking towards the sky and kind of looking at these pieces that are lined up here. And so I think in the next, I would say in the next 3 weeks, you're going to be smooth sailing. I think you're going to be so into whatever you're doing. You're going to not even remember a lot of these feelings you were having. Okay. And this morning I was hearing the cardinals sing and hoping that hoping that they were telling me that it was going to be warm soon. You know what? I love winter, but I'm over it. I'm over it. I have shoveled so much snow this year. And then I looked at the weather report last night, and it was not the best news. So we're going to have a ton of snow coming pretty soon here. But you know what? We're going to enjoy it. We're going to get in some more sledding and building snow creatures out there and stuff. So it'll be good. But yeah, I think it's just, you know, you're going to be that pretty little songbird. Nice little free heart, right? Just, I think it's just a matter of getting through some of these more minor difficulties, or maybe they're larger if it, like I had said, if it is an animal that was dear to you. That might be a little, my last baby that left us, he passed away right at 2 months after my daughter was born. And I still, when I see pictures of him come up on my phone, I literally want to cry every time. I loved him so much. So, okay. All right. I thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you allowing me to bring these messages to you. I'm always so honored. If you would be so kind as to like the video, it helps me get into the algorithm and get to more people. And I appreciate that that support from you. And we also, what else? Oh yes, if you have not subscribed already, please think about doing that. If you hit the little bell button, it will tell you as videos are coming out. Usually it's one a day. It takes about 12 days to cycle through the zodiac, obviously. So in the meantime, Cancer, if you want to watch your other placements, go ahead and watch your solar, lunar, ascendant / rising. And I know people watch their Venus a lot too. Other than that, please leave a comment. Let me know how you're doing. I am so thankful for all the sweet messages and comments and the love received and just the encouragement, but also so much I love to hear about what's going on with you, what's resonating, even if it's the difficulties and stuff. I am honored that you share with me. Okay, thank you, Cancer. We will see you again very soon.